It's time with JMU Hall of Famer Delvin Joyce.
Joyce breaks a tackle and goes in for a touchdown. Another spectacular run by Delvin Joyce.
Alongside one of the best signal callers in JMU history.
ABIII, he's got plenty of room across the 50 to the 40. He should make it all the way to the 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, James Madison University.
Together, the duo bring their unique perspective to the podcast, breaking down all the things they're seeing about JMU football. This is To the House. Now, here's Delvin Joyce with ABIII.
What's going on, JMU Nation? Welcome to another episode of To the House. I am your host, Delvin Joyce, the People's Choice, and I am joined by future Hall of Famer, ABIII. What's going on, Vad?
What's up, brother? I'm so happy to be on here with you once again.
Once again, man. And listen, we also got football this weekend. We got football live and in living color. Of course, I was at the game, the JMU game, in the booth. So I got a different live experience. Did you get to go to any live football this football weekend?
No, I did not. But I tell you what, this will be, JMU deal. North Dakota State came to Charleston, South Carolina to play against the Citadel. So the number one school in the country, as we know at JMU, FCS, came to play the Citadel. And I live about 7 minutes from Citadel. And so I said that if in the fourth quarter, if they're winning, then I'm going to run to the game so I can storm the field. But of course they got, I don't even know if they scored, I think 45-3 or something like that.
Oh, I meant to look at that score because you were supposed to call that game, right?
I was supposed to do the commentary, but of course, when networks come in, they just kind of kick you out and say, hey, we got our own people.
Yeah. Well, listen, as a tough pull for Citadel to have North Dakota State in the first game of the season, it was also a tough pull for Weber State to have to travel across the country and play JMU in the first game of the season. So, I want to get right into this. Obviously, the Dukes came out with the win, 45-10. My betting friends, I've never bet on a football game, Vat. I don't know if you can believe that, but I've never bet on sports. But my friends who bet say that JMU covered the spread. Have you ever bet on a football game?
I have not. I grew up in church and, betting was like a sin. So,
there you go. All right.
I have not bet on a football game. I don't really plan on to either, but hey, you never know in life.
Yeah, I never got into it, but I guess it makes the game much more exciting for people, and a lot of people tune in to games that they otherwise wouldn't care about because they bet. But JMU covers the spread 45-10, and to me, it looked like a really good opening performance against an FCS team that JMU should have dominated. And this is, I think, a theme over the last 3 years where we've had an FCS opponent and we didn't quite come out looking the way that we thought we should look, dominating that FCS opponent. Last year, of course, we struggled with Gardner-Webb, a 13-7 victory, and some people even thought we had a chance to lose that game. And then, of course, the year before that against Bucknell, that's when Alonzo Barnett III makes his original start, struggles, and, of course, the Dukes still kind of pull away with the win after replacing him with Jordan McLeod. So, have you had a chance to look at the game? And I guess, what are some of your initial reactions to how JMU performed?
Oh, man. Well, first of all, Delvin Joyce did the commentary of the game. So you did an amazing job. I learned a lot from you. It was really cool seeing you. And Kurt Dudley he makes you look short, I guess. A lot of people.
It's because I wasn't wearing my Air Maxes.
Oh, gotcha.
I was wearing my hard bottoms. They have no lift in them,
Well, you did an amazing job. But the JMU Dukes did a great job. I thought that they were in control of the game the entire game. There was never a moment where it was like, oh, snap, or it was never a dull moment in the game where it felt kind of like, hey, man, they better tighten up or else. You know what I mean? It kind of felt as though we were in control. It gave the fans what they were looking for in terms of celebrating, throwing the streamers around. The offense started off really great. I mean, 4 for 4 on drives, touchdowns, and the defense did great too. They stopped their opponent 4 straight times Weber State, and so I thought that the game was pretty much in control. I thought that everything that needed to happen in a first game happened for them to learn from, for them to grow from, for them to really go back to film and still have that edge and still have that hunger going into this short week of playing Louisville.
Yeah, I mean, so first off, thank you for the props on the broadcast, man. I mean, I had a blast. You know, when I go back and watch the game, I'm always like, oh, I can't wait to hear what the commentator said. And then I'm like, oh snap, I was the commentator. I already know what they said. But I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head, man. I think these guys came out and played exactly the way that we thought they should play. They went out to a 28-0 lead against a team that, again, we talked about this last week. They should dominate, right? If they are the team that people think they're going to be, they have to dominate. Now, of course, the big story is the fact that Alonzo Barnett III made the start, right? Especially after all offseason. Everybody's like, there's no way he's ready. There's no way he's ready. And of course, here he comes and he's the starting quarterback. The other big surprise, though, is that in the opening drive, I don't think I was expecting to see this. In the opening drive, we also saw Matt Sluka come into the game, right? And so that for you, I mean, you're a quarterback, right? And I guess, have you ever been in a situation where you had to share reps with another quarterback?
Yeah, I have been in that situation. When I was at Georgia Tech, my redshirt freshman year, we had a starting quarterback. His name was Delvin Washington, and he did a great job of leading our team. And I was just a young pup trying to figure it out, but at the same time, they had packages in there for me. And so we would start, he would play 2 drives, and I would play 2 drives. And the coach would kind of make a decision from there. And that's kind of how we went throughout the whole year. And,
Wait. Let me make sure I understand. So, like the first 2 drives would determine who played the rest of the game.
The first 4 drives would determine who plays the rest of the game.
Yeah, first 4.
So I guess each player gets 2 and 2. And so your 2 drives will determine who plays the rest of the game. So like, for example, we went to UNC, and until last year, we had the record for the most points scored. We scored 68 points against UNC, but I didn't start that game, but that was my coming out party. I had like over 120 yards passing and over 110 yards rushing with 3 touchdowns, something like that. But I didn't even start, so I didn't get the win column right under my belt. But that was kind of how we did it. So I thought it was very unique to see Matthew Sluka go in the game in the first drive. That kind of just sets the precedent to show that this is something that defenses are going to have to plan for the rest of the year. This is not something that's just going to be a trick play every now and then or to change up the defense. No, this is a part of JMU's offensive scheme, 2025 offensive scheme. This is a part of this is what they're going to do. And so I don't know if I was surprised. I got to give kudos to Matthew Sluka for getting into the game, his first JMU experience, scoring a touchdown, throwing a touchdown, right, in your first JMU experience, throwing the streamers up, right? So you got to give him credit and also give his head coach and his coaches credit from Holy Cross, right? Now that they are finally, this whole reunion was all talks, laughs, and giggles, and now it's an opportunity where now they are like, hey, this is a reality where we're back together, bringing the band back together. And lastly, I'll say, Alonzo Barnett, this is his team, right? I will say this is his team. And I think he understands that. But I also think he understands the dynamics that Matthew Sluka brings. It's something that he can do as well, but it's something that we don't necessarily want him to do in terms of running, up the A gap and running people over, right? We rather have, another dynamic guy to use his skill sets to be able to do that.
Yeah, first off, I love how you tried to, pretend like you didn't remember your stats from that UNC game. He's like, something like, 126 yards and something like that.
I think the biggest thing was we scored 68 points, and then JMU comes last year and scores 70 points on
Scored 70. Took you right out of the record books. But, it is very interesting that they are using Sluka that way. Honestly, for me, I thought he would be more of a nuanced player in that, maybe in these situations where it's like 3rd and short and we got to get it, we put Sluka in, right? Because we're going to run it and change the math for the offense and the defense. Or, this goal line play. I will say I was surprised at how much Matthew Sluka played in the game. And I got to tell you, like, from my perspective, I don't know that I loved it. But I'm also a financial planner. I am not a football coach, so I have no idea, if this is like a genius move by the coaches or if this is something that, maybe potentially takes Alonzo Barnett III out of his rhythm. I also think it might be part of their load management strategy for Alonzo Barnett III as well, as he's transitioning from, being injured into sort of getting back into game shape.
Yeah.
But you said something very interesting, because I think it's all about making sure that they put this on film, right? And I think Matthew Sluka coming out of the, in that first drive, and he came out on a lot of first down plays, and he even threw a lot of passes. I think that was part of their game plan and saying, you know what, this is not a nuance. You have to prepare for both of these quarterbacks. And there might be two totally separate offenses that we are running while these quarterbacks are in the game, right? Yeah. So, I mean, I guess from your perspective, is that what you think the strategy might be?
Yeah, I definitely think the strategy going into this game against Weber State, an FCS opponent, was absolutely to get him in and get him in early and as often. Simply because, one, we know, we talked about the Shepherd staffs last week. We know kind of what we get in Alonzo Barnett. However, I do feel as though he has gotten even better this year because of all the things that he has gone through and has had to endure. I think going into especially this short week, I mean, these guys only have legit 3 days. I'm talking about Louisville. They only have 3 legit opportunities to prepare for JMU's offense. Well, you can't just go back and look at JMU's film from last year. You also have to go back and look at some Holy Cross film. You also have to go back and look at some UNLV film,
yeah.
Right? Because you gotta check this guy out, and so it gives the defense more to be concerned about. And so I do think it's playing a little chess and not checkers, right? Where I don't know if this is going to be, I don't know if it's going to be like that all season. You know what I mean?
That was going to be my next question for you, because I don't know either. I mean, I feel like they wanted to put a lot more Matthew Sluka on film in this game to maybe give Louisville a lot to think about, right? And then, of course, depending on what happens this Friday, that might, then they go into a bye week, and then it gives Liberty a lot to think about.
Absolutely.
Coming into that game. So, really, so how do you feel ABIII looked in the game, though? Let's talk about that for a second.
Man, you're talking about no knee brace Alonzo Barnett. I probably was shocked to see no knee brace. I mean, I was just expecting him to roll out there, and everybody's been talking, oh, there's no way he's going to play, whereas definitely no way he's going to play without a knee brace, right?
Yeah, that was a surprise too.
That was comfortable to see, and so I love that. And statistically, there is really no difference. I wore that knee brace a couple of times, and I had to get that thing off. I mean, you really feel limited as a player and limited from your skill sets. I mean, that knee brace was designed for those old pocket passers that could not run back in the day. Well, there's a new game here, right? Where we have athletic quarterbacks, mobile quarterbacks that's able to use their legs and use their arm. And so I was really happy to see Alonzo Barnett kind of go out there and just be himself, not worry about anything. There was one particular sack off the left that he took, which was a big hit for him, right? And I believe it was the running back that kind of miscued on that. So Alonzo Barnett thought he had more time. But anytime he got the ball out of his hands quickly, it was always a productive play, right?
Yeah.
He's an athletic quarterback, but he started the ball game 7 for 7. Right, he started 7 for 7. 7 is the number of completion, right? Literally 7 for 7 completions. And to show you, hey, let's put all that other stuff to bed. Let's put all that other talk to bed. This is my time. And one of my favorite plays in the entire game was actually not a pass play from him. It wasn't a run play from him. It was when coach called a timeout right before he checked into the very next play that they scored on, which was a run play. He was getting ready to check into that play, and because the time was going down on the play clock, coach got nervous and called a timeout. Well, as you've seen on TV, I could see it on TV. He's patting his chest, man. I got it. That is very comforting to see, especially in year 2, because we can put last year to bed. We hear a lot of talk. Hey, last year this offense got stalled. Last year this happened. Last year, right? We can finally put that to bed, and that's what I'm mostly excited about, because it was like, hey, this is my show. This is my team. And what a compliment for a coach to know that you have given him this offense and you have given him the keys. And now he's taking ownership of those keys and saying, hey, this is my show. This is my team. And that was really fun from a quarterback perspective, man. It really helped me to know that he sees the game, he knows the game, and he's just playing ball.
Yeah, he talked about that, because he couldn't participate in spring ball, he had to immerse himself in film. And so he studied a lot of film. And so it doesn't surprise me that this guy understands how to get the team out of bad checks and bad plays at the line of scrimmage. I agree. I thought he also looked sharp, especially with the way he started 7 for 7. I want to say he hit like 5 different receivers as he went 7 for 7, but he also just looked comfortable back there, right? And maybe that had a lot to do with the fact that he had a pretty good amount of time in the pocket, but he looked very, very comfortable and confident. Of course, the big story in this game for me was the rushing attack of JMU. For them to come out and put up 300 plus yards. Yeah. And I think coming into the game, we all talked about like, hey, they have so many weapons, especially in the backfield. How are they possibly going to feed everyone? Yeah. Of course, the star of the show was our guy, Wayne Knight, who just had a ball game. I want to talk about him in a second, but I guess overall, what were your thoughts on their ability to run the ball in this game and actually chalk up about 300 yards of total rushing?
Yeah, you got to give credit to the big offensive linemen, right? I think that this is an opportunity to highlight all of those guys on the offensive line. In fact, while I was watching on TV, Delvin, you might have got a better view, but it looked as if they was just shuffling those offensive linemen around, especially very early on. So it seemed like 9 or 10 offensive linemen were able to take snaps and get some meaningful snaps. That's huge for our run game. Let's be honest here. We're going to go based on our run game. All right. It doesn't mean that we don't have a pass game. It doesn't mean that we're not effective when we do pass the ball. It doesn't mean that we don't have the quarterback to be able to pass the ball. But what it does mean is that we have some amazing and explosive running backs that can get the job done. And, these guys were able to display and showcase their skills, but also stay fresh enough to like, hey, this was just the start, right? This was just the start of something major the entire season. And so to have 300 yards on the ground your first game, I think as a coach, that's what you want to come out with, right? Especially as an offensive line coach, especially as an offensive coordinator. We know that pass plays are sometimes 50-50. Right? Sometimes
that's right. That's
your
right.
guy might not win, but we expect to win in the run game. We expect our offensive line to move those big guys out of the way, but we have some running backs that could just make one cut and just be explosive, and that was beautiful to see.
How does it feel for you though as a quarterback when you knew you had a run game that you could rely on? Like, did that take any amount of pressure off of you in the passing game?
Absolutely. It definitely did, because you knew that those defenders were starting to get antsy. And once they get antsy, it's a perfect opportunity for you to now throw it over their heads, one, but also to know that their eyes are in the backfield. When a defense get their eyes in the backfield, there's lanes for quarterbacks to be. They might be in good coverage. However, if they have their eyes in the backfield, that means that they are being nosy towards looking at the run game. And that's the type of pressure that these running backs are able to put on a defense, because, man, now we get to play action pass, right? A lot of times, especially this week, I think you will see a lot of play action pass simply because of the success that we had on the ground this week. I believe going into this Louisville game, you're going to see a lot of play action pass and a lot of big plays to be made.
Yeah, man. I mean, a lot of success because we had almost two guys that went over 100 yards in one game. I can't remember the last time we did that. It's probably, the Percy J. Obase and Carton Johnson days or something, right?
Yeah.
But,
To that point, Dev, I think it's really cool that we don't even have to have a guy to go over 100, which I'm sure they want to go over 100. Every running back wants to go over 100, right?
Yeah.
I think we stopped at 99 or something like that, which is the highest rusher. But
Yeah, we got to get the stat guy to give Petaway the extra yard. I mean,
no doubt.
they did this to him like 3 or 4 times last year. Just give my guy an extra yard. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. No, I was just throwing that out. It's really cool though to know that, like, hey, we don't have to have one guy at 100 plus yards. We can keep them rolling, keep them fresh, and keep that running game going. And I think that shows the value in how many running backs and that we have capable of carrying the load.
Yeah, it was kind of wild, man. We had 9 players that had 1 rush in that game.
Oh wow!
Now, of course, that was also counting the punter who who decided to.
Oh yeah, what was that? Let's talk about that.
Man, you know what? I think I said it on the broadcast. Like, I think they've given him the flexibility to say, all right, if you see this look and you think you can get it, green light.
Yeah.
Now, I know he didn't get it, but I think it was also important to put that on film because that's going to keep Louisville and every other opponent now honest. When he goes running out to kick that ball, they're going to have to keep a guy in there tight to check him because obviously he can run it. He just probably needs 4th and 6, not 4th and 10.
Yeah, man, that is, man, how about our punter trusting his speed? I absolutely love it. That means you got guys out there having fun, reading, playing ball, and not scared. Right? These guys are not scared to go make a play. Even our punter is trying to make a play. So you know what, Delvin?
Bro is from Australia, man. He's been on walkabouts and all kinds of stuff. He's never scared, bro.
That's true, man. These Australian punters. I can't find a team now that does not have an Australian punter.
Yeah, seriously, it's kind of wild. It's kind of wild.
But shout out to George Petaway and Wayne Knight just for their amazing performance. Joby Mallory, I think he had over 30 something yards. And I mean that guy's explosive and big. And of course, Ayo Ade, he was able to touch the ball as well. And so anyway, man, we got a running back for each quarter, right? You can just put them in for each quarter and let them go.
By the way, I'm glad you mentioned Joby, right? Because a lot of times when we think about running backs, we only look at the rushing statistics.
Yeah.
Joby, all of his rushes came basically at the end of the game. And I don't want to call it garbage time, but the game had pretty much been decided by the time Joby got cooking. But what was cool about Joby is that he played meaningful minutes at early in that ball game. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but every time Sluka came in the game and they were going to run sort of that power wildcat kind of run with Sluka, Joby was the off back in that formation.
Yeah.
And Joby is going to either set the edge, he's trying to kick the guy out, or set the edge and let Sluka go around. So again, it's really cool. We talked about, how are they going to use all these guys? How's everybody going to get minutes? It was really cool to see Joby, them working him into the offense.
Yeah.
Now,
go ahead, Flo.
Yeah, I was going to say the other thing, of course, was we got an embarrassment of riches at the wide receiver position as well, right? And so again, concern: how do we spread the ball around? How do we get all these people touches? Well, 8 people in this game caught passes, led by Mikey Scott, who had 4 catches in this game. So Mikey Scott is a true freshman. Were you surprised to see him make his first career start in this game?
I was surprised to see him start, and I'll be honest, I didn't know much about him coming into this game, right? But now I know all about him, right? This kid made you want to Google him and say, hey, who is this guy? Where did he come from, right? This guy, I mean, they gave him a reverse sweep. He caught a nice pass over the middle that was very low. It was a big 3rd down conversion. Big third down. One of the hardest catches for a receiver is to catch near your knees, especially if you're running, across the field, because
away from the ball.
Yeah, and it was a bad ball. Well, I'm going to say it's a bad ball, but it was a catchable ball, and he caught it, right? But I expect some of those passes to fall to the ground when you got when that's a hard catch to catch. And so anyway, I thought that he was able to display his speed, and you could tell that the coaches really trust him. But I was also happy to see him go through a little welcome to college football, right, where he was able to get the ball, and then next thing you know, he fumbled. Right, he fumbled, and I think that those things are extremely important, especially for a game like this going into Louisville, a bigger game, because this guy is on top of the world, right? But then he got humbled a little bit by that fumble, and I'm pretty sure he's going into this week and for the entire rest of the weeks like, hey, I got to hold on to that ball. That is a point of emphasis for him at this point.
Yeah, bro got rocked. I mean, he really, he's probably used to using his quickness.
Yeah.
He's coming straight from high school. So there's nobody in high school that's going to hit him that way. He's probably can use his quickness to elude that kind of hit. And to your point, I mean, I'm glad he got that one out of the way, because I think dude's going to cook this year. And, much to our producer of the show, Jack Fitzpatrick, much to his dismay, I know he wanted to see a 2-deep, a depth chart. I actually got the depth chart last Wednesday, so I knew that Mikey Scott was going to be making his first career start. I just couldn't share that because it was highly confidential, of course. But Jack, I got the 2 deep, my guy. But what about so there were so many guys that I think made valuable contributions. I think Isaiah Alston caught a great ball, great touchdown pass from Barnett. Landon Ellis catches his first touchdown pass, and that was a pass from Matt Sluka, which was, that was maybe one of the most beautiful plays of the entire game that just caught me off guard, because I honestly thought it was going to get picked.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it looked like that from your vantage point.
Well, when you got a guy that's that tall, 6'3", I think he's 6'3", might be 6'5", but when you got a guy like that, throw it up. I mean, our receivers, the game of football can be very simple if you simplify it, right? And one of the things that they were able to do, especially when Matthew Sluka came into the game, is the defense was now starting to play more man-to-man, right? And almost as if like, hey, I want you to throw the ball. Well, man-to-man is a perfect opportunity for our receivers to showcase, hey, on offense, the philosophy is we win every time. If it's man-to-man, we want you to be a man-to-man, because we're going to put our best matchup versus your best matchup. And going into this week, I keep bringing up Louisville because I think that, we're going to see something similar, right? We're going to see maybe even a similar game plan on offense for JMU, but also a similar game plan on the defensive side, where when there's man-to-man opportunities, we have to win. And we brought these receivers in for a reason. We brought them in for a purpose. And Landon was able to go up at the highest point, catch that ball, and show us what he can do. And then, as you talked about Isaiah Alston going up and catching his first touchdown at JMU, I mean, incredible. Again, that's a guy who sat behind 2 NFL receivers who got drafted into the NFL, at Iowa State. Then he was at a triple option school before that. So to see him celebrate in the end zone, it was almost like, as a triple option quarterback for Georgia Tech that played, I know what that's like to finally feel like you are back in your element, back in what you do. And so I was really happy for him.
Yeah. Do you think that these teams, or do you think that Weber State on Saturday switched to man-to-man when Sluka was in the game because it allowed them to sell out more to stop the run? Is that the sort of the calculation? I'm not that smart. I don't know football.
Well, no, I try to at least act like I know, but I think once you think about an offense with a package coming in, you think about Tim Tebow. He had a package when he came into the game. When he was, I'm talking about his early on years when they had Chris Leak as a starting quarterback. Many people don't remember, but Chris Leak was actually the starting quarterback, right? And Tim Tebow would come in that freshman year, and everybody was highly anticipated when he came in that we knew what he was gonna do. He was gonna run the ball. Right?
Yeah.
Well, then Florida was able to get creative and allow him to do jump passes and all types of stuff. Well, that's what we kind of have in a similar situation where Matthew Sluka is able to condense a defense where defense is now focusing all on the run game, and now is an opportunity for us to have those one-on-one matchups, and he can throw the ball. Right now, I would like to see him not underthrow that interception, that one pass that he had with the interception. I'd like to see him give his wide receivers a chance. High point, one-on-one is a chance for you're trusting your receiver to win, but as a quarterback, you got to put him in a position to win by throwing him a decent ball.
Yeah, and that pass, the interception was actually to ABIII, not even a receiver. It was the shortest guy, pretty much one of the shortest guys on the team. I think he's
I didn't even recognize that.
Yeah. I mean, Io had come out of the backfield and went wide, but and so a big surprise for me though was that Nick DeGennaro had no catches in the game. He had one target. Barnett threw a beautiful ball to him. That pass got broken up. I talked to Nick's dad at Hotel Madison after the game. He said Nick should have caught that ball. He said that Nick can catch that ball. By the way, his dad played football at UConn. He was a quarterback.
Oh, wow.
In the old Yankee Conference. Shout out to the old heads on the podcast who remember the Yankee Conference. But
that's amazing.
Yeah. So, he said that Nick should have caught that ball. I was surprised though that Nick's and Jalen Sanchez were not more involved in the offense. Was that a surprise for you?
Well, I think it just goes to show the depth of our roster. Of course, you would like to see a lot of guys play in that game, right? But this is also the first time where the offense is able to play another color. You got a lot of new transfers that are coming in. And so I know that Nick would definitely have loved that pass. He would have loved that pass. And I'm thinking about his dad, right? Thinking about his dad playing quarterback back in the day and having a son that plays wide receiver. Imagine what that household looked like when Nick was in high school or something. I mean, if I'm his dad, I'm just chucking balls at him, as a former quarterback myself, right? Imagine if I have a son that plays wide receivers. So we know that Nick is ready. We know that he has the hands, and it sounds like his dad holds him to a high standard. And certainly we as JMU fans will certainly hold him to a high standard as well. And we know that when he comes in and he gets his opportunity, that he's going to take full advantage of. I believe that Nick will take full advantage of.
Yeah, man. I got to meet his whole family, by the way. They were super awesome, man. Mom, grandma, uncle, like everybody. They were fired up about being there. But
that's amazing.
Of course, the big one for me, the big surprise, I think for everybody in that game was Wayne Knight.
Yeah.
And I think it was a surprise for everybody except for the people in that locker room. Because when I got a chance to talk to Chesney on Friday, Chesney basically said Wayne Knight is a baller. And so, it wasn't surprising to me to see Wayne Knight come out as the starting running back in this game. And then bro literally cooked the entire game. Yeah. Like I was expecting a lot. I was expecting him to tweet from the sideline and say Wayne Knight is on fire. That's an inside joke for those of you who know, right? But what did you think about his performance? And first off, I got to say, number 3 looks way better on him than number 25 that he wore last year. And bro was doing number 3 justice, because I'm part of that Trey club as well.
Come on now. Come on 3.
Shout out to LC Baker too. So what do you think about Wayne Knight's performance, man? Was that a surprise?
I see what you did there with number 3. Wayne Knight, he basically, he took over the game. It's almost like, when a quarterback, everybody knows quarterback's name, but if you did not know Wayne Knight's name, you do now, right? He not only started at running back, but he was.
We by the way, we called him Wayne Wright on the podcast for the first. On the broadcast for the first 2 drives. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
You know what? The interesting thing is, I heard you guys say that, and I wasn't confident.
Not you guys.
I wasn't.
Not you guys.
In my own self, it was you.
No, it wasn't me. It was my play-by-play guy.
Well, I wasn't. So he knows it all, right? So I wasn't confident in myself. I'm like, man, maybe I wrote his name down wrong, and I changed his name to Wright. Wayne Knight, when you give him the ball, you're gonna be right. I don't think that was a mistake, because we were able to give him the ball, and every time he touched the ball, this guy came out with an awesome highlight tape after one game. Even the special teams plays that got called back, right? His kickoff return that got called back, I think he ran it all the way down, right? He looked really good. He looked fast. And he just looked like the right option to give him the ball. And so I expect to see more of Wayne Knight. Pray that he stays healthy. I mean, that guy is a baller, and he made me a
He's a
believer
baller.
after seeing him.
Yo, I'm a believer, man. In fact, I mean, last year we had his brother Yamir Knight before he left and went to SMU.
Yeah.
And Yamir Knight was the Knight brother that, was the highly productive one. And right now, man, I'm like, Yamir who? I mean, by the way, when was the last time we had a running back who actually also returned kicks and returned punts?
Yeah, that was great.
I don't know that that's I mean, again, I'm going to try to go back in recent memory. I don't know that that's happened since me. I think I was literally the last running back that took as many snaps as Wayne takes, but also returned kicks and punts.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, talking about
bro's going to have an all-purpose yards killer season this year.
Yeah. I mean, you said it best. All purpose. I mean, he's all purposeful. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can catch punts. He can catch kickoffs. And we need Wayne Knight to give us another Wayne Knight performance this Friday for Friday Night Lights in Louisville.
Man, you're skipping ahead. I love it. But let's talk about the defense real quick, and then we'll talk about Louisville, because I really want to get to this Louisville game. And by the way, we had 3 quarterbacks that scored rushing touchdowns. I don't know if that's ever happened, right? Yeah. J.C. Evans, of course, comes in and runs J.C. Evans left and scores a touchdown. But the defense, I thought this was a dominant performance by the defense. And of course, we're playing an FCS opponent, but you can only play who's on the field. And they did exactly what they were supposed to do. They only gave up points on the 2 occasions where the offense had given Weber State a short field because of the Mikey Scott turnover, the fumble, and the punter overestimating his speed, right?
Yeah.
But were there any observations for you on the defense?
Yeah, I thought the defense flew around. I thought they played extremely well. I thought they was very sound, fundamentally sound. They were in the right gaps. I don't remember big plays. They caught a couple big plays, big passing plays, which are like one-on-one opportunities. Again, they play football too. So when it's one-on-one, 50-50, your man versus my man. It doesn't. But I thought the secondary played amazing. Right, the secondary, those safeties, Jacob Thomas, all conference Jacob Thomas leading the defense. I mean, he's just a pure leader on the field, and he seems to always be around the ball as well. One interception, he was able to tip because they did like a zone read, a play action read, and he came in at the line of scrimmage and jumped. He was able to tip it. I believe Tyler Brown caught the interception, and then vice versa, Tyler Brown tips one and Jacob Thomas catches it. So they play overall complimentary football. Trent, big Trent, I saw him flying around. The defensive line, we didn't get any sacks that game, so that was
no sacks.
That was
a concern for me.
A little concern for me as well.
And I don't feel like we put a lot of pressure on their quarterback either. And so to not get any sacks is one thing, but I would expect to see that young quarterback kind of running for his life in that game, and he wasn't.
Yeah, I would agree. I know we kind of skipped ahead to concerns, but I was concerned about that because I think everybody had kind of that question mark about the edge rushers and are we going to be able to get pressure on the quarterback? We weren't able to do that. Now, I don't think I don't think we should be panicking here because we have multiple guys that are able to rotate in and play well. And they were able to hold up their own. I think, they finished the game with the quarterback 4 for 19. Wayne, their quarterback was 4 for 19. And I think that tells a story a little bit, right, where the defensive line was able to at least put pressure on the quarterback enough where he wasn't efficient, right? So I do think that there was some really, really great things that happened on defense. However, we would like to see some sacks in the sack column going forward.
Yeah, I think overall, the performance was awesome. I mean, they only gave up 148 yards in the entire game, which, again, is what you would expect against this FCS opponent. Ironically, Louisville gave up about the same amount of yards to their FCS opponent. We'll talk about that in a second. But, I guess for me, you're exactly right. The big guy who stood out for me in this game, there were 2 people. Tyler Brown, I think, is going to be an absolute star on this defense. I think with him and Jacob Thomas, the combination of those two, because Jacob Thomas, and by the way, that's a big dude, man. Like that guy, and maybe it's because I'm like small now, but like I saw him in the post game press conference. I'm like, this dude is a monster.
I love how you say like small now.
Well, listen, I mean, I was 198 my last year in the NFL. I'm 163 now.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty small.
Oh yeah, but I'm shredded though, bro.
Come on now. I am
absolutely.
What are you
shredded,
running in the 40?
Guy. I am not running 40s. I could drink a 40.
We don't need to run 40s anymore.
I'm not running 40s. No, sir. But Jacob Thomas, big physical safety. And then you got Tyler Brown, who is a very cerebral player. This kid is smart, man. I'm telling you, he's going to make so many plays because he's always going to be in the right spot and he plays with a lot of passion. So I'm really excited about watching him play. And then again, we didn't get a whole lot of pass rush, but I tell you who I think played really well in that interior line on defense, and it was Michael McMullen. I think this guy is a sleeping giant, somebody that's going to have a lot of production on that defensive line. I guess my bigger concern was like, where was Xavier Holmes? I don't think I even said his name on the broadcast once. Where was, Aiden Gobira? I know Aiden got in on like one play, but where was Aiden on the pass rush? And then also, of course, we have Amar Thomas, who is supposed to be our new edge rusher, kind of replacing Kyrie Mans. He's the field edge rusher. And so like those are the folks, Xavier Holmes, Aiden Gobira, Amar Thomas, that we are expecting to be giving offenses fits and having quarterbacks run for their lives. And that did not happen on Saturday.
Yeah, I think we spent a lot of time talking about those guys and talking those guys up on the last episode, right? And so those guys were emphasis for, at least for us two, on this podcast to see some production out of, especially when, Aiden Gobira goes from Notre Dame. I mean, just Notre Dame alone, right? You just kind of develop this expectation. Oh, he's going to come to JMU and dominate, right? That's just the
and ball.
Yeah. It's the expectation that you have. Now, does expectation meets reality? Well, here we are. This is the reality. This is your opportunity. This is your right now moment. And I think he played one snap at Notre Dame. And so there wasn't a lot of experience there. Let's be honest here. And so coming to JMU, I think he might have played maybe 12, 13 snaps or something like that Saturday. I can't remember exactly. But I did not hear his name much. But most importantly, it's not about your name. It's about the pressure and the skills that you was able to show. And so I didn't see a lot. Certainly would love to see more, especially with these big time opportunities. I tell you what, going into like a team like Louisville, right? I remember my last year at JMU when we had an opportunity to play SMU. I remember thinking like, this is my last time being on this like big level, right? This is my last time. At the time we were FCS, right? So the mindset was like, this is my last time being on an FBS level, being a former starting quarterback at Georgia Tech in the ACC to now, at JMU. And I'm thinking like, man, this is my last opportunity to kind of show that I belong on this level. So a guy like Aiden Gobira, right? I believe that going into this game, man, you kind of got to have that mindset, right? This is, hey, Notre Dame was not a fluke, right? I belong here, and we're going to need a guy like him to really step up this week, especially when we play those big explosive offenses. And then Xavier Holmes, he played a lot of snaps at Maine. This is your chance to just keep your motor running, keep your motor going, because you got depth. You got an opportunity to tap your head if you get tired. We need you in that backfield. So those guys, I'm going to continue to keep my eye on, especially going into this week, because this is big boy football.
Big boy football. And by the way, I mean, just one more note on the defense, man. I did think, again, 3 interceptions, nothing to sneeze at. I also thought Justin Eaglin played really well at corner. And Vad, I also think that, maybe some of that not getting pressure on the quarterback was, I feel like we kept it kind of generic and vanilla on defense. I mean, Colin Hitchler's signature is giving offenses multiple looks pre-snap, trying to dictate what they do. And I didn't see a whole lot of movement from the defense pre-snap. And so maybe we just kind of kept it super generic in order to keep them off balance. Now, of course, we got to talk about special teams for a second. And, right now we have a very small sample size with our kicker, but he did make one field goal, really nice kick. We had one blocked. I don't know if that was a mechanical thing. I didn't get to see it back on the broadcast, but bro, gosh, to give a shout out to my guy. What's my guy's name? Dang, I'm drawing a blank here. Chase Regan. Yeah, man, Chase Regan, bro. I mean, this dude is just like, it's almost like he lives for special teams. Like, and he didn't really get on the field much as a safety, but I think he sees special teams as his opportunity to ball. Bro blocked a punt, made several big tackles, and just excited to see him ball out. So, Vat, let's transition now and talk about this Louisville game. And you've talked a little bit about that mentality that you had going into that SMU game as an FCS team going to play an FBS opponent. Well, now this is not quite the case, right? This is our group of 5 team going to play a Power 4 team, right? So I guess, what do you think the mentality for JMU has to be going into this game?
Going into this game for JMU, I think, one, you build off of what you were able to do really good last week, and you learn from the mistakes of last week as well. I know that there were some special teams, things that need to get cleaned up, like the block field goal, and you got some penalties, just some little things that can go each way, right? But you're able to build off of the run game. You're able to build off the dominant defensive performance, 3 interceptions, secondary. But then you're also able to learn from getting to the quarterback, right, where we want to create more pressure. This is another opportunity. This is the most important game on the schedule. Why? Because it's the next game, right? But at the same time, this is also a big game. And we all know it because at JMU, you come to JMU to win championships. And there's a level of expectations, especially when you go into, it's funny, the UNC Tar Heels is the premier game tonight, right, on a Monday night. And all I think about is JMU just running into their house, right? Putting up 70 points, by the way. We scored 68 at Georgia Tech. That was I didn't have many records at Georgia Tech, and then JMU come and take the record.
This is like the 3rd time you brought this up, by the way. I think you,
no doubt,
I think you feel some kind of way about that.
I'm happy for the Dukes. Things always get better when you leave, right? You get, but I think going into this week, I kind of shared a little bit of my mindset personally when I was going into SMU game, because that was like a big game on the schedule. And I thought like, oh snap, y'all made a mistake by scheduling us like the 4th game of the season. Well, and similarly, we were able to get the kinks out. I didn't really see a lot of nervousness last Saturday. I thought our team just executed well, and they just played football as if they've been playing football. And so going into this week, this is a huge task. Now, this is no game to take lightly, but you get Friday night lights, right? We all love a good old Friday night lights. This takes you back to when the game was just fun. It wasn't about NIL. It wasn't about how much money you were making. It wasn't about any of these things, but you get a true stamp, a true picture of going back to Friday night lights in Louisville, in somebody else's home. Man, this is setting up to be an amazing, phenomenal game. Last thing I'll say, I was watching, I think, the Texas versus Ohio State. No, it was Clemson. Who did Clemson play? Clemson played LSU, right? Clemson played LSU. I was watching that game, and a proud moment for me when I was watching the Clemson versus LSU game was like when I seen JMU like come up on the top right of the screen as a premier game. I'm just thinking like, wow, that was a moment that's where it all came together for me. Like, wow, we are really in this thing. Yeah. And so in order for us to stay in this thing, we have to be able to perform well versus teams like Louisville.
Yeah, that's dope, man. I mean, a couple of things you said that I want to piggyback on. First off, I agree with you. Like JMU is a program that is used to big games and used to going into big programs and knocking them off. right? And we're 2-0 against the ACC in the last 2 years. We're actually 2-1 against the ACC in the last 3 years, if you count the game that we had against Louisville 3 years ago in our first year as an FBS program, playing them pretty much as an FCS team. Like we were an FCS team the first time we played them back in 2022. But the other team that's kind of like that is App State, right? App State has gone into Michigan and beat Michigan in the Big House. They've gone into Texas A&M and beat Texas A&M at College Station. And so for me, when I look at JMU is on a similar trajectory. That's also why we have a hard time getting scheduled for games like this. Same with App State. Nobody wants to schedule App State. You know who App State is playing on Saturday?
Who are they playing?
They're playing Lindenwood. Like, this school doesn't even have a logo in ESPN. You know why they're playing Lindenwood? Because they can't get anybody to schedule them out of conference. It's the same issue, right? And so I do think that, you know, we got to take advantage of it when we get an opportunity to play a team like Louisville, because in the future, teams are not going to schedule us, bro. It's not going to happen. Here's what I believe, Bad. Here's what I think the team has to do to win. I talked about this last year before we went and played Chapel Hill. I talked about it on To the House. Here's what I said. When we went to Chapel Hill, I said, you can't look at the name on the jersey. You can't look at the Jordan logo, and you can't look at the Argyle on the sidelines, because that is just another football team. Same thing with Louisville. Can't look at the Louisville and the ACC on the jersey and the 50,000 people that are going to be there and all red. None of that matters. This is a team that is probably equally talented to a JMU. They're not overly talented. And so the first thing we got to do is go in there and feel like we are an equal and we belong on the field, which I also believe that Bob Chesney has a history of pumping his teams up to believe that, right? I think that's important. How important is that? I mean, that belief is like everything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Belief. But it's like you said, it's focusing on us, not necessarily the opponent. Now, we respect the opponent. However, the focus is on us. When we play our best, when we play the way that we believe that we're capable of playing, when our playmakers go and make plays, when our defenses make big defensive stops and create turnovers, create pressure on the quarterback, then we are a force to be reckoned with. Now, we can focus on Louisville, and certainly, the coaches are creating a game plan for these guys. But going into this short week, the focus is on JMU, right? There's no other focus. The focus is on JMU. Now, with that being said, Louisville, you're talking about a team that went 9-4 last year, a team that's led by Coach Brom, who played in the XFL. I played in the XFL, right? He got one of those cool clips out there. If you ever Google them, hey, do I still have a pulse? Well, let's play football.
The Orlando Ranger, led by quarterback Jeff Brom, 7 TD passes, one of the XFL's first stars. Amazingly, he'll start tonight after a punishing shot that knocked him out.
My first reaction was I was shocked, stunned, dazed, confused, was kind of in another state of mind.
I saw his head one way and his body, and I'm like, oh goodness.
You know, his nose was out the side of his ear hole, and I was like, man.
His helmet was halfway off his head, and he was just laying there. I don't know if he was breathing or not.
The concern is for quarterback Jeff Brom.
So then they had to take him to the hospital to get the x-rays, and once those came out okay, then I was able to come back to the field with a neck brace on.
For a guy to take a hit like that and then come back on the sideline and cheer his team on, that really was touching. You know, I'm getting goosebumps now thinking about it.
Jeff Brom, how in the world are you starting this game tonight after taking that hit just 6 days ago?
Well, let me answer that question by asking you 2 questions. One, is this or is this not the XFL? Yes, it is. 2, do I or do I not currently have a pulse? Yes, I do. Let's play football.
Right?
I've never seen that, by the way, until you sent that to us. Yeah, that was dope.
You gotta, if you're watching this and listening, you gotta go to YouTube and type in Jeff Brom XFL, and you will see that clip where he got knocked out of the game and played the next week. And like, hey, is this football? Yes.
Bro, he didn't just get knocked out of the game. Like,
he went to the hospital.
He looked like, you know how like when somebody gets knocked out in a cartoon, like he was on the ground. He looked like a cartoon, bro. Like his head was going the opposite. I mean, I never
my
seen anything
God.
like that. Yeah, he got smashed.
Well, you got a guy like that leading a phenomenal program. I've kind of followed this guy. I mean, this guy was at Purdue. This guy has had an amazing coaching. He was an amazing quarterback, right? But he also has had an amazing coaching career. I believe he got two siblings that also coach on his staff. There was a couple Brahms that I seen on staff as well. And so this team went 9-4 last year. They lost by a touchdown to the defending the runner-up in the national champ Notre Dame, right? Last year they lost by a touchdown to a very great Cam Ward Miami football team last year. And they also lost to SMU, who went to the ACC championship by a touchdown. So just those three losses alone by a touchdown shows that we got to respect this opponent, right? This opponent, we're playing a very good team from last year, but also now going into this year, they also have some phenomenal playmakers as well. You got Isaac Brown, number 1. He wears number 1 for a reason. That guy the ball, and he does amazing things, right? He kind of remind me of well, this is be a good comparison. Michael Scott is our freshman. He's equivalent to our Isaac Brown, where we want to get him the ball. We on reverse. I think they gave him a reverse last week. He ran up the middle, right? This guy was able to make plays, and they know the importance of getting the ball in his hands. So it'll be cool at JMU. Maybe Michael Scott can be their Isaac Brown in practice this week and kind of get them familiar so that we're prepared on defense.
Yeah, Isaac Brown is a baller, man. I mean, he was the one that kind of jumped out on film to me because I did watch their game against Eastern Kentucky. Bro broke off a 31-yarder up the middle. I think he had 6 carries over 100 yards, but he broke off a 31-yarder for a touchdown and then a 68-yarder for a touchdown. And he's got speed. He's not like a big running back, like if you were to compare him to Wayne Knight, like Wayne Knight looks like a bowling ball kind of. This guy's a little more slender but fast. He was the ACC Rookie of the Year. Had over 1,000 yards rushing. I mean, bro can go. Like, he's a legit ball player. The other one for Louisville that stood out to me, because I remember this guy from 2 years ago when he played at South Alabama in the Sun Belt, is Colin Lacey. And Colin Lacey is one of their receivers. I think he was an all Sun Belt receiver when he was with South Alabama. Transferred to Louisville last year. He got hurt at Louisville and then redshirted, and so came back this year. And bro is, I mean, he balled last week. I mean, he broke off like a 89-yard punt return for a touchdown. He caught several passes, and I just think he's going to be somebody that we got to contend with, both on special teams in the punt return game, and then also at the defensive spot at wide receiver. I mean, bro can legit ball. Now, the big story, I think, for Louisville is how is their quarterback going to perform? You mentioned last year, but obviously now they've got a new team and they've got a new quarterback. So Miller Moss, the guy that started 10 games for Southern California last year, lost his starting job because he got started throwing interceptions, threw 7 interceptions in his last 5 games, and they pulled him. He's a big-time quarterback. What do you think about, I guess, his performance last week, and what does JMU have to do in order to contain him?
Yeah, Miller Moss, I mean, he seems like a gunslinger type of quarterback, a guy that's willing to take risk, a guy that's willing to trust his arm. All right, he's a quarterback that has some mobility. He can get out of the pocket, and we want to be able to contain him within the pocket. I think last week JMU did a great job of containing the quarterback. We didn't get any sacks, but at least I can say that we did a great job of containing the quarterback in the pocket. When a quarterback gets outside of the pocket, typically you're not looking to run, and certainly Miller Moss is not looking to run. However, that gives the playmakers the ability to kind of play tag and kind of just move around and just create a route instead of running a particular route. And usually when you get creative like that, it gives more time for those playmakers to be creative. And we don't want that. And so I think that we will do that. I think is important. An emphasis for the defense is to ensure that you contain the quarterback in the pocket. This guy did throw 2 interceptions, right? He did throw 2 interceptions last week. And we had 3 interceptions. We received 3 interceptions last week, and so I do believe that our secondary is red hot right now. And so Miller Moss has to be very careful with where he puts the ball, or else he'll be going the other way.
Yeah, and by the way, if you saw those 2 interceptions, they weren't bad reads.
No.
Right, they were good reads where balls got deflected, receiver kind of dropped the pass, and Eastern Kentucky was able to intercept it. But to that point, I do think that Miller Moss is going to give us absolutely some opportunities. Like that guy is going to toss some balls up that we got to go make plays on. And so I think that's where Jacob Thomas, Tyler Brown, Elijah Culp, I don't think played or even dressed in this past game. I'll ask our producer to check that for me, but I don't think Elijah Culp played in this last game. I just saw a post from him on Instagram that basically said, I'm cleared and I'm going to play this week, right? And then, of course, so Mekhi Rogers got a lot of snaps on the defensive side of the ball in the secondary, and then, of course, Justin Eaglin. But I think, for me, it's going to have to all come down to our defensive line showing up this week and getting pressure on Miller Moss. Because I think Miller Moss has a big-time arm. If he's got time in the pocket, they've got weapons, man. They got that Colin Lacey guy. They got Meeks. And they got also Duke Watson, who comes out of the backfield and catches a lot of passes when they substitute him for Brown.
Yeah, I would say that we have to contain Miller Moss in the pocket. And, because he threw those 2 interceptions, think about what you just said, Delvin. He come from another program where he got benched because of interceptions, right? He had to go and find a new program where it's like the hope is, all right, no more interceptions. Let's get this fixed. Let's figure this out. Even though those 2 interceptions last week were very catchable balls and could have not been interceptions, I think psychologically going into this game plays in favor of the JMU Duke's defense. Now, with that being said, because of how well the secondary did last week for JMU, and because the defensive line wasn't able to generate any sacks, I do think that it's important that our secondary must be careful because it could be setting up some double move type of plays on offense for Louisville, where the slant and go, the hitch and go, because of now how aggressive we are. After making a few plays, right? That from a psychologically standpoint, the defense is feeling good, right? And so, with a guy like Miller Moss who has a strong arm, we have to be careful of those double move plays this week.
Yeah, I think, Louisville's got some big playmakers, man. I mean, we just got to limit the big plays. If you watch that Eastern Kentucky game, they just big played Eastern Kentucky to death. 89-yard punt return, 69-yard run, 31. I mean, they were just chunk plays. If we can eliminate the chunk plays, make them drive the ball down the field, I think our defense – this will be a game where we see what Colin Hitchler is all about. And again, that guy came from Alabama. He's used to game planning in the SEC in some big-time moments, right? On offense, my big concern is, can our offensive line do what they did this past week against Weber State and open up some lanes for our playmakers to make plays in the backfield? I do not anticipate that we'll have another 300-plus yard performance. If we do, I can honestly tell you we definitely win this game and we rush for 300 yards, right? But I do think that it will come down to how our quarterback performs. I think Alonzo Barnett, the third, and or Sluka, whoever is kind of taking the snaps at the time, will absolutely have to make some crucial plays that, you can't really draw up in the playbook. They're going to have to make some plays. So what do you think about, I guess, our offense going up against this ACC super talented defensive line?
Yeah, I'm not so concerned about our run game. I do believe that we have the plethora of running backs to be able to make a guy miss.
Did you say
that's
plethora?
your job, as you know.
You said plethora. I like the way you said that, man.
Word right. But that's just the emphasis on our running backs, right? Because, as you know, your job is to make a man miss. And I believe that we have the offensive line to get their bodies in front of somebody else's body to create a lane enough for our running backs to go make plays. I do think it's going to come down to the perimeter game, making sure that we can hit the edges and win on the outsides, making sure that we can get the ball out efficiently and effectively, right? We want to not have Alonzo Barnett just standing back there looking for a guy, but knowing where his guy is and knowing exactly where he's going with the ball. There was a play last week where Alonzo overshot the receiver on a third down right in the middle, and it was pressure from the right side. Outside of that, the pass protection was pretty good all last week. Now, do I think it's going to be like that this week? We're probably going to be a little bit more challenged this week, especially they have a guy named Clev Lubin, number 50, who played at Coastal Carolina last year. So he might be familiar a little bit with this offense, and I believe he had a big sack in this past game. And so I do think that it's going to come down to our perimeter game. I'm putting onus on our wide receivers to make some plays. That's what I'm putting onus on. I believe that there's going to be some one-on-one opportunities. I don't think that this team is sold out to believe that we have, as much as we're excited about our playmakers, I don't think that this team is sold out to think that these playmakers are legit on the outside, right? We got a freshman that had an amazing game, but that's just a freshman, right? He just, happened to maybe have a good game. Then we have transfer receivers that have come in that, from last week they had a solid performance, but one catch here, 2 catches here, 1 touchdown over the middle. But outside of that, if I'm Louisville's defense, I'm putting emphasis on stopping the run, which means that our playmakers on the outside are going to have to make plays.
Yeah, bro, you nailed it. I mean, our playmakers in this game will have to make plays. I also think that Alonzo Barnett III's mobility is going to absolutely play a factor, and I was so excited to see that knee, he was not afraid to run and take off and take contact, because I think he's going to have to do that a lot in this game, as well as Sluka. When we think about the playmakers, I mean, I told Nick DeGennaro's family that Nick's probably going to catch 7 balls in this game. I mean, I honestly think that if we're going to win this game, a possession receiver like Nick DeGennaro, who's not the fastest guy, he's going to have to get open, find some soft spots in that defense, and just catch passes to keep drives going. Yeah. And so I am absolutely looking forward to that. Of course, Louisville, they had 6 sacks in their game against this FCS opponent. That does concern me somewhat. Again, we got to think about Alonzo's health, his knee, his mobility, and will he be able to evade some of that pressure that Louisville, I think, again, the game's not going to go perfect. There's going to be some pressure on him in this game. So also concerned about our ability to run between the tackles. We did have a couple of runs on Saturday that went absolutely nowhere. Yeah. I want to say Weber State had probably 5 or 6 tackles for loss against us. And so, we're giving up tackles for loss against an FCS opponent. Now we're going to an ACC opponent. I am absolutely concerned about that. And I guess my biggest concern for this game is on special teams. I mean, we saw some flashes of brilliance on special teams. We saw Wayne Knight with some nice returns. We saw Morgan Suarez make his first field goal as a JMU football player. But we also saw a lot of miscues on special teams as well. And they got some players that are absolutely going to make us pay for that in the return game for them. But also we can't afford to take points off the board on our side of the special teams equation. That, I guess, for you, other than what I just mentioned, any other big concerns for you going into this game?
I don't know. I think you hit them all. I think, if JMU, we have to play a great JMU brand of football in order to win this game. This is a huge game. This is a good opponent, right? And as much as it is about JMU, we also have to be able to create those turnovers for Louisville to get them flustered. And I believe that this quarterback, they can get flustered, but they have to be able to put pressure on him. And so, obviously, with Isaac Brown, the ACC Rookie of the Year last year, everybody is going to have their eyes on him. But we have to make sure that we focus in and locking down on everybody else as well.
Man, we had the same thing last year, though. When we went to Chapel Hill, we talked about, I know I talked about him ad nauseum on this podcast, was Omarion Hampton, All-American. right? Not ACC Player of the Year, but All-American, and that dude was a load. And they pretty much shut him down outside of one run in that football game. So, I don't have any expectations that we're going to shut Isaac Brown down, but if they do, it's going to be a great day for James Madison because, again, I can't say this enough. Take the daggone name off the jersey. And Vad, the daggone was for you because you say daggone a lot. But take the daggone name off the jersey, right? Like these two teams are evenly matched. And I keep thinking about that first game against Louisville in 2022, and we had just transitioned up from FBS. We had a FCS football team going in to play a Power 4 ACC football team. And you know what the score was at halftime? It was 10-10. 10-10. And by the way, our quarterback was hurt. I don't know if anybody remembers this. I think we played Marshall the week before, and we played with our second-string quarterback, Billy Atkins the fourth. Billy goes out and throws like 4 interceptions in that game. And so they rushed Todd Centeio back to play in that Louisville game, but we didn't run an offense. Like we literally just handed the ball off. I think he threw 4 passes he completed 4 passes in that game. And the score was 10-10 at halftime. Now we have one player, I think, on this team who started their career at JMU as an FCS player. So now this is a legitimate FBS football program that's going in to play Louisville. It's totally different than the first time. So,
well, shout out to Billy Atkins, who it's the quarterback for South Carolina State Bulldogs. And they got the win versus Furman 16-15, and I believe he started. So shout out to Billy Atkins.
Shout out to Billy, man. And Billy won the bowl last year. Billy got gypped. I mean, I love J.C. Evans, but I think anybody who was at the Boca Bowl last year knows that Billy Atkins should have been the MVP of that game.
For sure.
But, yeah, by the way, one more note on Louisville, and then I'm going to get to what you're talking about, Willis. Louisville committed 12 penalties this past week for 106 yards. And if you look at their history over the last several years, they've largely been a very undisciplined team. You mentioned some of those games that they had, where they played close games last year. They lost a lot of those close games because of untimely, undisciplined penalties. Several of them, especially even last week, were personal foul penalties. And, what's cool about JMU had 6 penalties for 75 yards last week, but no pre-snap procedural penalties for JMU. That was one of the things that killed us last year, killed some of our drives and momentum.
Yeah.
Last week, no procedural penalties.
That's huge.
That was a big one.
That's huge.
Right? All right, Vad, you know what time it is, man. It is time for What You Talking About, Willis.
What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about, Willis?
All right, so Vad, this week's What You Talking About, Willis, comes from the founder of Barstool Sports, Dave Portnoy. You know Dave, right?
Yeah, I know Dave.
You know who that guy is, right? And of course, if you unless you were under a rock, you know that Florida State somehow pulled off a win over Alabama, right? In Tallahassee. Big win. Like, I don't even think that game was close and or competitive. But Dave said I think he tweeted this during the game. He said, I told everybody who would listen, FSU was easy money. The SEC is a joke. All right, so that last part about it, right? Because I don't care that he took FSU and he thought that FSU would beat Alabama. That's cool. I love that he called the upset. But to call the SEC a joke, Dave, what you talking about, Willis? And Vad, I am not like a SEC, I guess stan. Like I don't care about the SEC. I do think the SEC at times is overrated and they get a little too much credit. But I can't say the SEC is a joke. Yeah. If you want to say Alabama under Caden DeBoer is a joke, then I'm probably on board with you on that, Dave. But to call the entire SEC a joke, what you talking about, Willis?
What are you talking about, Willis? SEC football is what every kid dream to play in, right? We can talk Sun Belt. We can talk, even ACC. We can talk all these schools, but SEC football is where you want to be. It's almost like a daggone mini NFL in a sense. And so anytime a team is able to knock off an SEC opponent, even look at an opponent like a Vanderbilt, right, or somebody is usually at the bottom, you still don't want to schedule them because you know what you're getting, the quality of players and the quality of program that you're getting. So what you talking about, Willis? Come on, Dave.
Yeah, that was a bad take. SEC is a joke. That's insane. All right. So, Vad, why don't you go ahead and take us to the house on this episode?
All right. So this is my first time taking us to the house. And I want to talk to all of the fans, all of the players, really anybody who wants to listen. Imagine for a second being the president of the United States of America, preparing for a road trip, preparing to get on the road, preparing to go, right? You walk straight. Imagine you're going on a plane ride and you walk straight into the plane where the plane is reserved for you and you alone, right? When you arrive, the motorcade and the police escorts is all waiting for you. And when you step into your destination, your presence has already been anticipated and prepared for. That's exactly what it's like to be a college football player, and especially a James Madison football player when you get prepared and ready to go play. We have a road trip this week where, one of my favorite parts about playing football in general is that police escort when you are getting ready to get on the bus and you're getting ready to go into a stadium. Whether we're home or away, that moment for me, it never gets old. Because in that ride, you could feel it. In that ride is where it starts to become real, where it's like all the early mornings, all the late night film sessions, all the weight room, all the long, whatever you just endured, all of that is coming to this moment of playing in this game where fans, family, and friends are traveling from all over to come see you ball. But life has a way of putting that ride into perspective. I want to highlight one of my former teammates and honor one of my former teammates' life. His name is Dean Cheatham, who passed away a few years ago. He was a starting tight end for James Madison Dukes, and he was a reliable guy. He was a team captain. He was somebody that I absolutely love and somebody that embraced me from when I came to JMU and as a transfer. I highlight this as a ride because I had an opportunity to go to his funeral. And one of the things that I noticed, or one of the things that I started to feel, was we got into that same motorcade where even though it wasn't like as celebratory and going into playing a football game, it was an opportunity to honor, respect. It was an opportunity to take that ride with his family where the police escorts were in front of us and behind us on the way to the gravesite. And I just want to honor my teammate, Dean Cheatham, with that moment because it was the first time that it clicked in my mind where I started to remember the JMU bus ride when him and I and everybody else was on a bus getting ready to go play this game. But one of the things that I want to share with everybody, and that moment reminded me, is that we all will have that ride. We all will have that last ride. Every man, every person on earth will have one last ride where the police escorts will be in front of you, behind you, leading you into your burial site. And so with that in mind, I wanted to encourage everybody to not just ride this ride of life for, taking it for granted, but take full advantage of this ride that you're on, because this ride is the best ride, or it can be the worst ride, but it can be the best ride if you put your mind to it, if you continue to live on purpose, with purpose, and for purpose. So enjoy the ride that you're on. I'm not sure where you are in life, but wherever you are, enjoy the ride. Whether you have wheels to ride or have feet to walk, enjoy the ride because every day is purposeful.
Well said, Vad. You just took us to the house, man. I love that, man. R.I.P. Dean Cheatham, man. What a great player he was. I love that you honored your teammate on your first to the house closing commentary. And JMU Nation, shout out to Vad. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to the James Madison Dukes for getting their first win. And man, we got to go out and pull off this upset on Friday night. Got to go out Got to go out and pull out the upset. And hopefully everybody's making the trip to Louisville that can. I want to see a lot of purple in the stands. Let's do it again, bro. Let's take one to the house. Go Dukes.
Go Dukes. Let's take it to the house. Enjoy the ride.
To the House is part of the JMU Sports News Podcast Network. Be sure to subscribe to the JMU Sports News Podcast Network to never miss an episode. To the House dropping in your podcast feeds every Monday night, and new episodes of the JMU Sports News Podcast coming in the middle of every week. To the House is produced by Jack Fitzpatrick, hosted by Delvin, Joyce, and Vad Lee. To the House is part of the JMU Sports News Podcast Network. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe wherever you find your podcasts. And be sure to follow To the House on Twitter and Instagram at JMU To the House.